Welcome to the Off the Gun podcast, where we speak about healthy habits and mindset of high achieving individuals, shooters, and performance people. I'm your host, Greg from blacksheepstraightshooter.com.au, bSSS.com.au. Today, I'm happy to be speaking with Nathan Francis, who was actually my first freedom from self-sabotage coach, and he put me on the path to me doing what I'm doing right now. So, really grateful to have Nathan on the podcast. And yeah, Nathan, g'day.
G'day, Greg. Thank you for having me, mate. Really proud of what you're doing here. I'm looking forward to seeing where this podcast journey takes you, mate.
Very good. What'd you get up to on the weekend?
I knew you were going to ask that question. I love how you ran me through them before. Actually, on the weekend just gone, I spent the weekend at the market on Saturday morning. I go to the local farmers market down the road here in Kawana. I get some organic produce for the week. My brother gets some meat and different things as well from the market. And then I went to the beach Saturday afternoon, had a bit of a swim because it's getting pretty warm up here in Queensland. And then on the Sunday, I caught up with an old friend of mine. Actually, we're going to be talking about my alcohol journey and stuff. And yeah, I caught up with an old friend of mine from my travels when I went overseas and went on a bit of a 6 week bender in Europe. And I met her on the Kentucky tour I did, and we caught up. She was seeing a friend up here, and we caught up. And yeah, she was pretty taken aback by the changes that I've made in my life, and I look a bit different to the boy that was running away back in 2019. So yeah, it was good to catch up with her and just sow a few seeds and gave her lots to think about. Greg, I did. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
that was
yeah, yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I still
So
love it how you asked that question.
yeah. I live in northwestern Victoria now, very away from the beach, but I used to surf a lot and do a lot of kiteboarding, even in Darwin and stuff where the crocs and stingers want to kill you. But yeah, I love the salt water and I miss it a lot.
Yeah, well, we've got to get back by the beach, mate. Come up here and I can show you around up here, mate. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So um, like I mentioned earlier, Nathan was my first freedom from self-sabotage coach, and he put me on the path to wanting to do the same thing. He's come a really long way in his journey. I've listened to quite a few of his podcasts, and um, you are growing every day. And please tell us about your story.
It's like that question of where does one start with their story? For me, Greg, I was a child that was very, you could say, inquisitive, asked a lot of questions. I didn't take what was being told to me on face value. I would always ask questions, and it was something I'd always get ridiculed for, asking too many questions, different things. And it was sort of that period of my life as a child where from about 9 to 10, I stopped asking those questions until 2020, right? Where we all started asking questions about what was being told. And for me, it was asking the questions that no one was sort of asking. And I was reuniting with a buddy of mine, Dale Holmes, who put me on. Dude, that's how you found me originally. And it was just going on that journey of asking the questions on the outside world of how does things really work? Why is this happening? Who's behind it? Who's behind them? What? And then still, as you said in my podcast too, when I interviewed you, was diving through those rabbit holes and really having a tough time dealing with that information, dealing with that truth. And I found it a very, what do I want to say, dark period of my life, but a very dark period of my life where I was faced with these world truths that I felt like I always knew. I was remembering them, and it was it was so dark that it's like, well, what's going on in my world? What's going on internally with me? And it's equally as a dark place. I believe the universe is a mirror. It it reflects to us back our reality. So if I'm seeing the world as this dark place, what's going on in my world? And it was me asking that question of what's going on in my world was when I started that inner journey. And it was this time, pretty much this time 3 years ago on this AFL Grand Final weekend, was the night where I looked myself in the mirror and said, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. Like, I'm not going to be drinking anymore. I'm not going to be partying anymore. I'd already started listening to Jason Christoph's podcasts, But it was an interview that he did with Adrian Domenico, who I've had on my podcast quite a lot now. And it was his podcast with Jason, where Jason really dived into the self-sabotage stuff. And it's like, well, I ticked that box. I had negative thoughts. I had worries, and I was people pleasing, and I was doing these things and not really knowing why I was doing them. I was already started asking myself those questions. Jason just validated my questions. He answered them. I'm like, well, this is not organic to me. So why am I doing these things? Well, it's because I was programmed to do those things. But where does the programming come from? Well, it comes from school, comes from society, comes from your parents, comes from friends of friends, all these things. And then it's a matter of going, well, what's organic to me? What's true to me without the influence of others? And for me, I had to sit with myself and block out the influences of others and the screens and the tech and the TV to be like, well, what's organic to me? Well, I would drink to run away. But what was I doing to run away before drinking? See how I was asking those questions? Well, what was before drinking? Well, it was porn. Why was I running to porn as a 9, 10-year-old? Well, I already had some issues with myself back then. And it's like, well, the woman on the screen would take those problems away. So I was running to porn because I was still running from myself. But why was I running from myself, Greg, is the question I then asked. Well, I was running from myself because I was told that the things that was happening to me were in my head and they were woo-woo, and that I was asking too many questions, and that I was disobedient, and I was all these things, all these labels that people dumped on me. It was me running away from that because I was scared to be who I wanted to be, because I had people tell me that I was something. And it's like that upset me so much that I allowed the rest of that to happen. And I would say I was the Usain Bolt at running away from my life. I was on the 100-meter track, running away from my life, watching the porn, drinking, smoking, partying, doing those things
Yeah.
because I didn't know any other way. So looked myself in the mirror this time 3 years ago and said, Nath, look, this is it. No more. You're starting something else now. I didn't know how deep and how awesome that intention would be. I just set an intention. I just said, look, I'm not doing this anymore. There has to be something better. The next day, I'm pretty hungover, pretty high and different things. And it's like, well, that podcast dropped. I listened to that and went, wow, okay, I need to probably reach out to Jason. So I did. Sent him a few emails and different things, and his coaching program opened, and that was it. I was on the journey. I was off, but I didn't know. All I did was set an intention. Just quit that thing and see how you go. 12 hours later, I'm, you know, the old me was loving the attention from women that I would get, but I was also running away again. I would run away from different problems in my life to then dabble in the sex, because I was doing that with porn too. So see how porn and sex sort of just come together.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on a plastic fold-out table talking to 3 young girls, and I'm sitting there probably saying some pickup lines and some pretty awesome, not awesome things, some pretty derogatory things. I don't know what I was saying. I was off another world, and I fall through the table. So I just hit the deck. My bum smack. And it's like, well, why did that happen? Well, that was one of my rock bottom moments. Physical rock bottom. To you set the intention 12 hours ago. That's your moment to be like, are you going to change now? And it's like, yeah, I am. And
Yeah.
a very special thing happened in that moment that I have now remembered since. And it was my grandfather's hand that I grabbed when I came back up. Energetically, I just grabbed his hand. He was guiding me and showing me a new way. It was like, I'm taking that hand and I'm ready now to step forward and step onto the path that I'm supposed to be on. And the last 3, 4 years have been an incredible journey where I've started a podcast, I've written a book, started a business, done all these things. But if I hadn't had that moment or set that intention, I don't know where I'd be right now. And I don't want to think about that for too much. But yeah, it's been a very, very awesome journey, and one that I have no regrets over, because if it wasn't for those moments in from 9 to 27, I wouldn't have anything to really talk about, because that's my story. But I'm rewriting a new one now, and that's the best thing. And I'm so grateful to be in this position, to be able to speak on a platform like yours and to be able to share my experiences and my, I guess, knowledge and wisdom to be able to help others that are on a similar path or that are a little bit off the path and want that nudge back on it. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question for you, mate.
Yeah, and we've both used this saying before, pain is the teacher.
100%.
And if you numb your pain through things that are just distractions really, or toxins and poisons and um, acting like a child and doing the wrong thing by others, you're just going to go nowhere. So if you sort of lean into your pain and face it and deal with it, because a lot of people don't want to deal with it, that's very empowering. And once you start to detox yourself, your mind uh, thinks a lot clearer, and you can move forward. So really well done. That's excellent.
Just asking questions, Greg. It's something I was very good at. I was good at asking questions of others, but then it was that mirror moment. I needed to start asking questions about myself. And when I started asking those questions, I was getting the answers. I wasn't liking the answers. They were painful, but I'm very, very glad I was able to then ask those questions of myself. And it's something I do every day now is, well, why is this happening? How can I react better? How can I be better? It's like that inner dialogue. Yeah, one of my superpowers is asking questions, and it's something that I now do with myself. So,
Yep. Yep. And when you control your inner self-talk and pay attention to it, then you can get out of your own way. If you
100%.
keep, if the your environment is negative and you're hanging around, yeah, there's a saying, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're hanging around the seagulls. And also, what was the other one? Show me
Crabs in the
your,
crab bucket.
yeah, crabs in the crab bucket. And I didn't understand that when I first heard one, but like there's a community dynamic in the bottom of the crab bucket, and once the crab is trying to get out, the others pull him back and say, "No, no, no, no. Here's what we don't feel safe when there's people that stand out and by themselves and do their own thing." The other one is, yeah, show me your five closest friends, and I'll show you your future. So if you're not hanging around with people who are pushing you forward, then they're holding you back, really.
Mm.
Yeah,
And,
and
that's it's a very tough process to be able to go through something like that of letting go of those old versions of you and those old people that, once served you for a frequency or for a time of your life that you're in and you're after something better. And it's sort of, I see it as that's where people sort of get stuck because they don't want to let go. They're just trying to hang on, but
yeah,
they know that does that make sense?
there,
That's what I
there,
find.
there's so much safety in what's comfortable.
Yes.
And if you just keep doing what you've always done, you're going to go nowhere. And if you're not, out on a limb is where the fruit is, and calculated risk and being prepared to take risks and fail is a really big deal. You just need to fail forward and fail better. So at least you're moving forward. That's a really big deal.
And that's
And
the
it,
deep, yeah, and that's the deep thing about the school system too, is they don't necessarily like kids come out of there, they don't want to fail, they don't want to make a mistake.
yeah, yeah. And being shown your weaknesses is sometimes good, but if it's done right, like I mentioned to you before, and I think in our first session, that I really struggled with maths and had a bit of dyscalculia and had tutors and stuff like that. But a relief teacher pointed that out to me straight away and said, because I was showing my working out of my maths, and she's like, "Do you have dyscalculia?" And I was like, "No, no." That's just because it was done in sort of front of a peer group and um, could have been handled better. But yeah, sometimes those little things sort of stick with you for a long
They
time,
do.
especially when you were young. You're told something, and then yeah, you
In
believe
the
that.
work we do, we know that subconscious remembers everything. So, things like that would come up eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That part of the mind just remembers everything, and it's a matter of going back in there and allowing those memories to come back to be able to shine a light on them.
yeah, yeah. And look at you. You're told something once, where to spend your time and writing about what, and you've coming out with a new book just recently. So
Yeah,
you've
well,
you've
that's
turned that
interesting.
around. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I was told in the school system myself, mate. You know me very, 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 very well. But yeah, I probably shared that story in one of our sessions too. But I'll share it with your listeners and your audience now. It's like, well, when I was in school, I had a teacher tell me that I shouldn't be writing about kicking footies after kicking goals after sirens and being a hero and saving the world and saving the team from kicking the goal and doing all those things. And yeah, I used to write about sport and all sorts of stuff. And I had a teacher say to my parents, and I was just sitting playing some Lego, and she said, "Oh, we don't really want Nathan writing about that stuff. I want him writing about information reports and whatever other handwriting off the board and all this other rubbish." And it's like, well, I never wanted to do any of that. I was always, I guess you could say, creative, and always had an imagination. And I was just writing about that because that's what I was passionate about. And that was a block for me, as I said about the subconscious, and we both know how it works. Well, I instantly put that block up of, well, my writing isn't worthy because of that teacher. She said it's not worthy. So therefore, I'm not worthy. And that was my block from writing. And I was laying on a table, and a friend said, "Oh, something happened to you when you were 6." I was like, "Well, yeah, I was told my writing wasn't worthy." And I went back to that moment, and I stood before that younger version of Nathan and said, "Mate, that's one person's perception of who and what you can be. There's 6 billion people on this planet. Like, there's going to be someone that's going to resonate with you.
Yeah.
So you can let that go."
Yeah.
And
And
then it was in that moment I went, well, shit, I can actually do some cool stuff. And I went away and wrote my book in 6 weeks after that because I was validated.
yeah,
But I
that's great.
gave myself that validation because I went back to that 6 year old, went, Nate, you can do and be so many things. You don't need to take on that one person's perception of who and what you can be. That's her perception. She can have that. She's entitled to that, but that's not yours to take.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
Yeah.
Changed my life in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a huge power in I I don't feel like I'm a rebel, but if somebody tells me I can't do something quietly and in a respectful manner, I don't say it out loud, but in my head, I say, fucking watch me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power behind that. When somebody says you can't do something, just watch me, just watch me. And that's a really big deal. So well done for
Thank you.
getting it done, getting it done.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's not just, you know, undoing bad habits. You've gone into a lot of different health modalities and spiritual and all
Yep.
that sort of stuff. You're kicking a lot of goals. So tell us a bit more
Thanks.
about that.
Yeah, okay. Where do you want me to start with that, mate? I could go spiritual health, but for me, actually, I know where to take this now. So for
Okay.
me, I had to get, oh, not had to, I got myself healthy, and I found that my body can start doing some pretty awesome stuff. And I talk about it in a lot of my content. I say awesome shit. Well, the awesome shit we can do is we all have an intuition. We all can feel things, we can all hear things, we can all see things. And for me, it was that inner voice of mine was screaming at me for a long time to just change and to be better. And it was in those moments of getting myself healthy or going to bed on time. One thing I changed. Uh, Putting a filter on my water changed. What else did I do? Started eating organic, real whole food, right? And then working on my emotions and working on all the stuff that we work on. Your body changes. It comes, it doesn't turn, it changes back into its natural state. And its natural state is the intuition, is feeling things. You might have a really strong intuition where during the COVID stuff, you might have thought, they might be doing something here that's a bit fishy.
Yeah.
And then you might have the foresight of, oh, they might mandate that little prick in the arm. That's that's your body telling you. That's intuition. That's a psychic ability.
Yeah.
We all have these abilities. For me, as a kid, I used to have these things. I used to see the beings in my room. I used to see dead people. I used to see those things, right? Well, that used to scare me as a kid because society says it's woo-woo. Society says you're in your imagination. Well, I also went back to that child and said, that's not in your imagination. That's not woo-woo. That's real to you. That's the other side. So you can explore that. The moment I explored the other side was I needed to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. But I started with the physical, started going to the gym, started filtering my water, started eating organic food, started watching what goes into my body, fasting, doing all of those things physically to take care of myself. Right. Mentally. Okay. Well, if I have a belief system that that's not real, then it's not real. If I have a belief system that the government's our friend, then the government's our friend. The
Yeah.
government's not our
Yeah.
friend.
No.
It's a matter of changing your belief systems. So, and then mentally, hypnosis. What else did I do? Wall art, affirmations to change my mental patterning and start the positive repetitions, like go in the gym. If you want to go to the gym, get big arms, you got to do the reps.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to change your mind, you need to go in the mind gym and do the reps. So I did that.
Yes.
Then emotional. Okay. Where does my anger come from? Why am I so angry at myself and why am I so angry at the world? See how I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the emotional. What am I sad? Am I sad at myself? Am I holding on to grief, guilt, shame? What's going on there? Why am I sad? Okay, working with the negative emotions, then the positive ones. Okay, what makes me happy? What makes me feel good? Does being myself, cracking dad jokes, does that make me feel good? Absolutely. Does walking up to a kid and saying, "Hey, brother," and talking to him and just being that playful child, does that make me feel good? Absolutely. And then that's the emotional on it, and it goes deep on that too. But then spiritual. Okay, where in my life have I not used the word no? Have I said yes to please others?
Yeah.
I have. Okay, so how do I take that power back? So I go back to those moments. I stand before that person and I say the Ho'oponopono prayer. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I say it to myself and to the person. I watch them walk away. And then it's like, okay, so then the universe will test you. So you'll be in the supermarket or you'll be somewhere and someone will ask you a question and you'll be like, this is my moment. No, I will not do that. Or no, thank you. You'll feel empowered. You'll feel like, shit, I can say no now. And then once you know how to use the word no, your whole life will change. There's your spiritual on one level. So for me, it was just having all of those things working in unison. Once those things are working in unison, it's like, okay, my grandfather's over there. He died 20 years ago, but he's with me. He's guiding me. He's showing me. He's in my life. My other grandfather's here. He's also guiding me and showing me some pretty awesome things. Who else is there? Oh, I went down to the Gold Coast in April and I did a light therapy session where this light just flickers above your head. And it was a very spiritual thing. And I'm laying there and this being appeared. Now, this being, I remembered him from when I was a kid. He was the being I was initially scared of. He was the reason why I had a nightlight till I was 12 years old. He was there, and he had a message for me. Nathan, you're being initiated, but also it's okay to let me to let me in.
Wow.
So
Wow.
then I go back to that kid and I go, Nathan, it's okay. He's been here since you flew out of the womb. He's one of your main guides. It's okay to let him in and see him again. It's nothing to be scared of. Yes, he's 16 foot. Yes, he's fucking huge, but you don't have to be scared of him. He's been here since you flew out of the womb, brother. It's okay. So I see him now all the time. He's massive. And it's like, it's a matter of dealing with that fear. It was the fear around it. I was scared of what I was seeing. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was darkness. I used to have sleep paralysis too, where when you're in that sleep paralysis state, you feel like you're being attacked, you feel like you're being choked, you feel like something's about to take you. Well, for
Yeah.
me, in that moment, I felt all of that. And it was when I did a quantum healing session with, I think you've done one with Vicky
Vicky.
too,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where, yeah, Vicky's awesome. And that moment came back. And I'm like, well, that's just whoever's there wanting to show me the bigger picture or show me something with a message. And it was after that quantum healing session I started having the sleep paralysis again. And I did an interview with Darius right on my podcast. He was talking about the out of body experience, and you can access that out of body state through sleep paralysis. And he said something special is about to happen to you because if you're having these moments throughout your whole life, they're wanting to show you something. And it's like grab their hand. So when I set the intention 3 years ago to quit alcohol and I fall through the table, I grabbed my grandfather's hand. I grabbed it and said, show me. And then out Nathan comes.
Yeah.
Like the out of body state is where the soul leaves the body. People have near death experiences. We can have near death experiences without having a near death experience. We can access this stuff with the belief system and a physical and a mental and emotional healthy vessel, well, we can disconnect, not disconnect, but we can pop out of our body and we can have these mystical, real experiences with the other side. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we can do. And the ancient Egyptians and all these things, all these ancient cultures knew about this stuff and have hidden it from us for a reason because that's our power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, learning about sexual energy, that is also our power. And there's a reason why they want us watching the porn. There's a reason why they want us in the hookup culture, sleeping around doing these things. If you're younger and in my age group, they want you doing those things because that's sexual energy. If for a man, if you can maintain your semen and hold on to that for an extended period of time, that's your energy, that's your power, that's your creative life force energy. Think about it for a second. If that energy can create another human being, what can that energy do if you can maintain that and not shoot it off into the sheets?
Yeah.
Imagine if you were to maintain that. Imagine the life you could build with that energy because you can already build another human or create another human. Imagine what it can do in your own personal life and the things that you can build with the energy that you have.
Yeah, and your attention span too. If you're just like want to watch the footy and um, eat Doritos and drink beer on the couch and not go out and sort of live your life, you're holding yourself back.
100%.
Yeah, and if that's what all your mates are doing, again, the it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're hanging
The
around with
moment I
seagulls.
decided to untether and to break free from my own shackles was when my life changed. And it was that night 3 years ago was that start of that journey. I met Vicky, I met Jason, and I started that journey to where I am now.
Yeah,
But if I hadn't have set that intention, that's how powerful we are. If when we speak and say things, we can speak things into reality. Might not happen instantly, but it'll happen eventually. And for me, it was about 12 hours.
yeah,
All I
yeah,
said in the mirror, and I'll repeat it, Nathan, this is the last night drinking and partying. There is something better for you. That's it. That's it. I just acted on it and went no more. 3 years
yeah,
later, something better happened because I met you. I work with you. I'm now on your platform. Like I'm living that life.
yeah.
There was something better there.
There's a lot to be said to actually living your true self and not doing the people pleasing and being fully present and not distracting yourself with all the crap.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't really tune in to what they really want or feel like if what their experience in life or how they think is not commonplace and the norm, that then it's not really safe to step out and experience that. So yeah, that's fantastic that you're just doing your thing. And
My life got to a point at 20 this time in 2021 where uh it got to a point where I had to like there was something inside within me that had to change.
yeah,
Like we all get to that point, that breaking point of like it can't get worse. Like it has to get better. And I
yeah,
was at a point where I was drinking my life away. I was sleeping around my life away. I was doing all of these things thinking it was cool and it was great. But internally, mate, I was struggling so much inside. And I
yeah,
didn't know how to express the sadness that I had. I didn't know how to forgive myself. I didn't like I was doing all of these things, like hurting women all the time. And it's like, well, why was I doing that? But it was gaining the conscious awareness of why and going deep into the issues that I had with myself. They were all there. I just didn't know how to, I guess, start that journey of unpacking the man that or the boy that I was.
yeah, yeah. It,
Because because every time I would hurt a woman, I go, why did I do that? Like I didn't want to do that, but it's like something took over me and I did it because there was a belief system there of I wasn't worthy.
yeah, yeah,
And it was a matter of just asking those questions. Well, why aren't I worthy? Why aren't I enough? Why?
yeah.
Just
You
keep
are,
asking yourself why.
yeah, yeah. And then you come to a realization: I need to change, and I'm ready to change. And
Correct.
you can have all these people try and help you to try and put you on the path, try and do the right thing. But if you're not ready, it's never going to happen. They say
Nah, it's like leading
that
a horse to water.
yeah, Yeah, and when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
That's it.
You you really need to want to change and then take action. There's uh, yeah. So well done on taking action and taking those first steps forward, because even if you're going in a slightly different direction, it's
Mm.
good. You're moving forward and you're growing and learning. So well done.
Thank you. But for someone listening, it doesn't have to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't have to fall through a table. You don't have to have a near-death experience. You don't have to whatever rock bottom moment it is. You don't have to get there. You might have to get there to learn the brutal lesson. That's someone's journey. But if you're listening to this, it doesn't have to get so bad that you're forced into a change. You can change at any time. You don't have to let things get to an extremely bad where you're falling through tables or you whatever. You can nib it in the bud whenever you wish, and that's the power we have. You can just instantly look yourself in the mirror like I did, or even just put it out there and pray or whatever it is you want to do, and just say, look, if there's something better out there, it will come to me, and it always does. It's just a matter of asking for that help. If you don't ask, you don't receive.
yeah. And change your mindset too. If you're ready to do the positive thing and just truly willing to accept and find people who are going to be part of your tribe, then yeah, that's
100%.
really good.
Hmm.
And just being congruent with actually who you are. Um, yeah, just
Here's a question someone can ask themselves. What does the most authentic version of me look like? What
yeah,
does that most authentic version of me smell like, feel like, taste like? Get the senses involved. Or what does the version of me look like that's quit that habit or quit that toxic relationship or whatever it is? There is a version of you out there that's already done that thing. Walk up to that version, imagine it. I know for me right now, I'm walking up to the version of me that's a father, a husband that
yeah,
has the family. I'm 30 now. I'm looking at that next step in my life. I've seen that version of me. He already exists out there. So I've walked up to him and said, "How can I be you?" But Greg, this time 3 years ago, I walked up to that version that was speaking his truth, that had a podcast, that had a book, that had a business. I walked up to him 3 years ago after that rock bottom moment and said, "How can I be you?"
yeah,
I'm living that guy now.
yeah,
But now I've walked up to the version of me that's got the family, that has it's like, how can I be you?
yeah, yeah,
It's a very powerful thing because I had a mentor, Jason, tell me that that person out there already exists. It's like, yeah, it does. But what does it look like? What does that person look? What does the father of me look like? He looks a little bit bigger than me now. He's very much the same. He's just got a couple of extra things that I really want in my life. And it's like, I'm going to walk up to him and bring that into my life.
yeah,
Powerful little exercise.
yeah, 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 yeah. And the past is the past, but you should really be super present on where you are, enjoy the moment where you are right now, and actually pay attention. But yeah, always look forward to and
Yeah, that's another thing too. I used to get lost in the future and get lost in the past. It's like, well, yeah, there are some awesome moments that can pass you by, but it's being grateful for being in that present moment. Like today, I said on another podcast a couple of hours ago, I said, yeah, I used to be thinking about the next thing all the time.
yeah,
Okay, and it's like, no, just be grateful for where you are. Yeah, 100%. Really
yeah,
awesome
yeah,
message.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because I was always thinking about the next thing. But where does that programming come from? It comes from school because you're always thinking about what's next. The next question, the next answer, the next bell to ring, whatever. It's all, when we can slow down and be grateful for the moment. Like even on Sunday at the beach, talking to that old friend of mine who knew me as the version I've been talking about. It's like being grateful in that moment to see that she's recognized that change in me, but to also be grateful for where I was and the moment.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and to take ownership of everything. Everything is your fault. Everything is your fault.
It is, yeah.
Analogy I used to use with my driver instructor students was when I'm taking a long range rifle shot, all I can do is fire a perfect shot. As soon as the bullet's left the barrel, I don't have any control over where it's going. But it's being everything is your fault. If you didn't see something coming up ahead, it's because you weren't ready to open your eyes and see it. Um, yeah, and again, part of that is just being super present, not trying to live too much in the future, but work towards someone and yeah, always being your better self. Yeah, I hear what you're
100%.
saying there. Yeah. What is the latest healthy habit that you have adopted?
Okay. Well, we're getting into the sunny part of well, in Queensland, it's sunny all year round. We're getting into you could say the hotter part of the year. And over the last few months, I've been adapting the healthy habit of sunning my balls, Greg.
Okay.
Very, very good for you to get your nuts out in the sun, boys, men out there.
Okay. Okay.
Very,
There's
very good for
there's got to be a joke here that bend over and see the light shining out of your ass. There's something there, definitely.
you.
Yeah.
And another healthy habit I've adapted to is actually, yeah, nah, sunning my balls and eating more steak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Very good.
There you go.
I didn't dare that ball one. That's left field. That's good.
Sun your balls, boys. Let's do it.
Yeah. What mindset have you discarded recently that has made a profound impact to point you in the right direction? So, what old belief did you have that you've said, no, I'm done with that? And how has it made a good impact?
I had an old belief that I wasn't worthy,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize how deep that wasn't worthy belief was until well, I unpacked it originally with that teacher, but it was deeper than that. And I kept asking myself, well, why am I not worthy beyond that? And when I got the answer, which is part of that, but part of the mind works, you'll always get the visual or something will come. And when I got that answer, I was like, far out. That wasn't even my story. Like that worthiness, yeah, it was the teacher's story at the start, but it was like a family ancestral wasn't worthy like what do you call it? Ancestral like program from my family going back eons. It's like, well, holy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That definitely isn't my story, but that's like a family belief system that I'm choosing to break. And when I had that epiphany in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, well, I am the author of my own story. And my future kids won't have that ancestral belief system anymore because it
Yeah.
stops with me.
Yeah. 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 That's really powerful. And I'm a dad of two young girls now, and my dad was never around growing up, so it's important to me that I set really good examples. And the first 7 years of a child's life is very, very impactful.
Hmm.
So I try and catch myself and just be a good example to them. And yeah, yeah, I reckon
You're
you'll.
doing a great job, mate.
Thank you. I reckon you'll be a good dad too. Because, and the big thing about a freedom from self-sabotage coach or anybody you want to learn from is they need to have sucked at it to start with.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and they've gone through the struggle and they can empathize and they know exactly what you're going through. So um, that's a really big deal to, yeah, have a struggle and face your fears. And
Exactly. Your struggles are your greatest teaching moments. There's lessons in the struggle. There are reasons why you're currently feeling like you are. And it's when you see the bigger picture, you can sort of pull yourself out.
yeah, yeah. What advice would you give to someone who has decided to actually take action and get their shit together?
Advice I would give is don't be too hard on yourself for going back. For me, it wasn't necessarily, I never went back to alcohol, but I did go back to the porn. But I didn't beat up on myself for it because there was a reason why I was still running. And it was a matter of asking that question of why am I still running? But if someone has set an intention to quit something and they go back, it's okay to go back because this part of the mind, you get to a certain point and it might be physically, you get to a certain point physically and the people around you aren't where you are. So you have that choice to make to be, I'm going to stay where I am or I'm going to keep going. And it's when you keep going, you'll meet the right people that will come in. But don't beat up on yourself for going back. Everyone goes back. I've gone back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is the past is the past. You know, if you go back to the porn, well, you've done that. How can you take control of the future? Because you can't control the past. It's done. So you just keep looking ahead. You know, for me, I used to have a tick sheet. I'd go, right, first week done, second week done, third week done. And I set myself little goals. And I look back and go, oh, I lasted 3 weeks without porn. Awesome.
Yeah.
Then I'd go back and I go, oh shit. But it's like, well, I just lasted 3 weeks.
Yeah. You've
Okay,
proved.
so this time will be longer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you go, it gets longer because then you start to learn about the urges and you can control those urges. For me, it was just a matter of doing some breath work and channeling that energy up through my body. I eventually learnt that technique, but I wouldn't have learnt that technique if I'd have just quit porn and just stopped and just, I had to go back to learn and be like, oh, so that's how I can make this last longer. Just got to get that energy moving. But I wouldn't have learned that if I had gone back. So for someone out there listening, don't beat up on yourself for going back. And if there's anything you can take away from this podcast, it's you're more powerful than you can ever imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We are very powerful beings. We've had our power taken away, but the moment you get that power back, no one will ever take it from you again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. Um, how can people find you? And tell me about your podcast and your book that's about to be released.
People can find me on social media as Nathan Francis. That'll be the best place to find me. Facebook, Instagram, Telegram's NathF94 for anyone who has Telegram. The podcast is called Breaking Free. You're on my latest episode, which will go up next week, Greg. So that's very
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, Breaking Free podcast. I started that podcast 2.5 years ago now. 100 episodes in. I feel like I've really grown on that podcast from episode 1 to episode 100 and whatever it is with you. And, I've cried on there. I've gotten angry on there, gotten passionate on there. I've experienced all the emotions and people have really ridden the ride with me to where I am now. Back then I'd say and a lot. I was nervous. I was cutting the guest off and doing all those funny things in the first episode. But it's like, yeah, it was just a matter of me just starting and just learning. We can all sit in the procrastination, all sit in that stuff, but it's a matter of just saying fuck it, do it anyway, and just start that thing, and just learn along the way. Yes, you're gonna have failures. Yes, you're gonna have some awesome moments, but you won't know unless you try. And for me, the book was the same. I have written a book called Breaking Free, a teens and young adults guide to identifying addictions and overcoming them. I wrote that book in a 6 to 8 week period and had some awesome teacher friends that edited it for me, and I sent off to some publishers. But that book is about the journey that I went on from 2019 to 2022, and it was pretty much about the health journey of mine, and it was set out in my stuff and why people do the things they do from my perspective. And I had it in there, and I've put in there all the tools that helped me in that period. And there's still tools that I use now, but 2.5 years later, I have more tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those tools back then really helped me, and I still use them. I just have more of them. And it's a really awesome book for a young person, even an adult, to read and go, well, yeah, this is how I can start that journey of taking back what's rightfully mine. And I'll put in the alcohol and smoking and the porn, and I went really deep into my stuff. Like, I opened myself up, went deep in there to help someone out there take back control of their lives. And that's how the book was set up.
Excellent. Excellent. You should be really proud of that. So,
Thanks, man.
dad joke time.
Dad joke time. Wow.
Yeah.
I went back through the notes of that, so I was prepared. Why did the boy smear peanut butter on the road, Greg?
I don't know.
To go with the traffic jam.
Okay, very good. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
that's one. That's one. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Just to leave on a final note, I guess, Greg, if there's one takeaway, it is that you are so powerful, but it can be such a throwaway line, but we actually are.
Yeah.
We can speak things into reality, we can create things, and we can do things that are pretty cool. But if you believe you can't, then you won't. But if you can believe you can, then you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. A big deal. Well done. Good job. Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Nathan Francis. This has been the Off the Gun podcast. Thanks for listening.